books and the challenges and the prompts and the readathons that I am hoping to complete in August. Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah and I love to talk about books. And it's that time again, TBR time, where I forget that time even exists and I give myself way too many books to try and get through in a month. So I'm trying to learn a lesson this month and I'm trying not to put too many books on my TBR and just be a bit more realistic about what I can actually read in August. So today I'm going to talk about what I've picked for August, but also I'm going to talk about a couple of really fun things that are coming up this month. So we kick the month off with the summer HiBearNation, which is run by Savidge from Savidge Reads, and I'm really looking forward to that. It runs from, I think it's the 1st of August to the 8th of August. So it's a week-long readathon. It's got some prompts and I'll be talking about those and how I'm going to fill them. And also on the 7th we have the Deweys Reverse 24-hour readathon, which I will also be participating in, and I'll talk about that too. But first, on to my must-reads of the month. These are the books that I have to read for my reading challenges, and the first one of them is Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin, who also wrote The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, which is also on my TBR. I haven't read that yet, but I know that's quite a beloved book. Young Jane Young is a fictional work, but it draws quite heavily on the Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton scandal of the 90s. And that was really what drew me to it. I was too young at the time to really understand what was going on there, but over the years I've become a little bit more interested in kind of how society reacted to and treated the different parties involved in that, particularly the vilification of Monica Lewinsky as being, you know, a slut, and she was turned into a laughing stock for her affair with Bill Clinton. But he seemed to escape a lot of the criticism despite the fact that he was the person in that relationship with all the power. He was a married man and he was a lot older than her. So I think that whole thing is very interesting. Not that I think Lewinsky was innocent in all of it. Given my current situation, I don't think I need to explain too much how I feel about women who go after married men, but I still can't ignore the hypocrisies that are in a lot of the discussions and coverage around that issue. And so Young Jane Young focuses on Aviva, who is a young intern who has an affair with a congressman. This affair ruins her reputation and her future, as well as puts strain on the relationships around her. I gather that she changes her name to Jane Young and is running for her first political office. But this story is also about her ambitious mother, it's about the congressman's wife, and it's about Jane, Aviva's daughter as well. I've heard nothing but praise for this book, particularly around the depiction of female relationships. It's got quite a feminist slant and it really does look at the hypocrisy of sexual scandals, so it sounds perfect. Next up is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, and I have been wanting to read this for ages, and I think it probably doesn't need a lot of discussion because pretty much everyone seems to have read it, and if you haven't read it, you've probably already heard of it anyway. It's a book in translation from Japanese and focuses on Kiko, who is in her 30s, a bit of an outsider, but since she was 18 has been working in this convenience store, and this is kind of her place of peace. It's given her purpose, and also it helps her kind of feel a bit more like a normal person because she's able to copy the social cues and norms from those around her, things like wearing the same similar clothing and responding to people the way that those around her would respond to them and things like that. And she's quite happy, but she's finding that she is getting a lot of pressure from her family and her co-workers to want more in life, to be chasing a career, wanting to be married, and things like that. And all I know is that in response to this pressure, she takes some drastic action. I'm really looking forward to it. It's quite a quick read and I think it sounds like it's going to be really interesting. Then we have another one that doesn't really need much introduction. It's Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I have only read one other Charles Dickens book. It was A Christmas Carol, and I really enjoyed it. And much like A Christmas Carol, I am already familiar with the story. I've seen I think it was the 90s TV adaptation, and in particular the scenes of Miss Havisham have always stayed with me, of her in her old wedding dress, the wedding banquet still out on the table, all the cobwebs and everything. That is something that has always stayed with me, and so I'm really excited to get to this one and actually finally read the story. This is about Pip, who is an orphan in the guardianship of his sister. He seems destined for a life of poverty and hard labour until the universe kind of conspires to offer him what is termed his great expectations. He undergoes an apprenticeship sponsored by Miss Havisham, and then later a mystery benefactor sets him up with enough money to become a gentleman and possibly win the heart of Estrella, who is Miss Havisham's adopted daughter and who she has groomed to be quite, cold and aloof to men. From the TV adaptation, I'm pretty sure I know who the mystery benefactor is and how the story plays out, but I think sometimes with classics that little bit of knowledge can actually help. I know from A Christmas Carol, I found Dickens really quite accessible. I didn't struggle with his prose or any kind of archaic language or anything, so I think I'm going to really enjoy this one. And then I've just downloaded the ebook from one of my libraries of Greta Thunberg's Nobody is Too Small to Make a Difference. This is a collection of her speeches, and if you don't recognise her name, she is a young climate activist and pretty much all-round hero. She started the global movement of children taking time out of class to protest for climate change, as when she was 15 she refused to go to school as a kind of statement against the way our climate is being damaged. I think this is a pretty short book, but it's really important. I think we have seen more evidence, if any was needed, of the damage that we are doing to our climate, what with kind of the reverse effect while we were in lockdown, of nature taking back control. And I think I in particular could do so much more. Yes, I do like my regular recycling and things, but I know that there's more that I could be doing, and so I'm hoping that this will maybe be the start of me educating myself more in that particular area. And next up we have The Changeling by Robin Jenkins. He is quite a well-regarded Scottish writer. I've never read any of his work. I know that my mum read The Cone Gatherers and really loved it and was always kind of trying to get me to pick it up, but I never did. But this book is about 13-year-old Tom, who lives in the slums of, I think it's Glasgow. Yes, he lives in the slums of Glasgow, and he has got in trouble with the police for theft. He's mainly written off, but he is very intelligent, and one of his teachers decides to take him under his wing, and he takes Tom away on holiday with his family. This book looks at how goodness and innocence can be stomped on by societal pressures and inequalities. It looks at class and poverty, and it was written in the 50s, which is kind of, that's my parents' Glasgow, or at least they were born in the 50s in Glasgow, and I've glimpsed that era in books like Lanark by Alistair Gray, and I read a memoir last year called The Last Song of the Night Tram, I think it was called, which is a memoir by Robert Douglas, and something within me really resonated with those accounts, so I'm interested to read more about Glasgow in that particular time period. Plus it looks like it's going to be quite a quick read, which is always positive for me. And finally, for my challenge reads is The Power by Naomi Alderman. This is a sci-fi dystopian novel, which I've said before, I'm not a big fan of sci-fi, but I do quite like dystopia novels, particularly when they have a feminist slant. I owe that to The Handmaid's Tale, which I read before I even knew what a dystopia was, and this is very much in that wheelhouse. So in this book, I think teenage girls have quite suddenly developed the power to cause extreme physical pain and even death, and it's flipped the patriarchal world on its head, where women now have the power and it's men that are scared to go out alone, walk down dark alleyways. It's told through the experiences of 3 very different women and 1 Nigerian man. And that's kind of all I know about it. I know some people loved this and some people didn't really like it. I'm hoping I'm going to love it, so we'll just have to wait and see. Then on to the new releases that I'm going to read in August, and really I only managed to read 2 in July and they were my carryovers from June. So basically my new releases is kind of staying the same. I've got quite a few books on my challenge read TBR anyway, so I'm just going to see how I can get on with that. But if you're interested to know what those books are, I will link my July TBR in the description box below because it's pretty much the same books. Now on to the fun. So I've mentioned the 2 readathons that I'm hoping to take part in at the start of August. Deweys I have done a video about before, and also my first and only so far reading vlog when I took part in one of the main Deweys, which happened in April. So I'll again link those videos in the description box below. But basically Deweys is, I think, maybe one of the original readathons. I've been doing it for years and it's a 24-hour readathon, and there's basically no rules, no prompts. You just read as much as you can in those 24 hours. It's loads of fun. This is one of their kind of offshoot readathons, and it's a reverse readathon. So with Deweys, everyone starts and ends at the same time, no matter where you are in the world. So for me, the April and October readathons, which are the kind of main Deweys readathons, start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and go on to 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the following day. This is a reverse readathon, so everyone's times are flipped, and it's, I guess, to be a bit more fair to people who maybe start in the middle of the night, which now will be me, because my readathon will run from 1 AM on Saturday the 8th of August till the following 1 AM, which I'm a little bit nervous about. I think I have done a reverse readathon before, but I just kind of dipped in and out during my waking hours, but this time I definitely want to start at 1 AM and see how I go. I would like to try and do the full 24 hours because I've never done that before, but we'll see about that. I will be using Twitter throughout that. I will also be using my Instagram throughout that, so you will find the links for those in my description box as well. I would love it if you'd add me and join me. Tell me if you're doing the readathon. We could buddy up. And actually, just on that note, I've said before how I struggle a bit with social media, but this week, I don't know what it is, I've kind of got Twitter. I think I finally figured it out. So I am using it more. I'm doing more on it. So if you would like to add me on Twitter, please check those links below. So our Deweys is kind of a free-for-all, read what you like, no prompts or anything like that. Simon Savidge's HiBearNation is a readathon that does have prompts, and it's a full long week, and they kind of overlap for me, which I think is really cool as well. So I'm hoping to get quite a lot of books shifted in that first week of August. Simon has a booktube account, Savidge Reads, which again I will link in the description box below. That is a very full description box this week. I think he's fantastic. The books he reads are totally my kind of books. He's really just warm and friendly, and his videos are so enjoyable to watch. He's also quite funny, and he's definitely one of my favorites from the bigger booktubers, and I think I came across him just as he was doing his last HiBearNation. I think it might have been his first, and I didn't take part in it at that point because I was still trying to get to grips with booktube and everything myself, but this time I'm really looking forward to it. So I'll go through each of the prompts and tell you what I'm going to try and read for them. He has 4 basic bear prompts, and then he has 4 extra bear prompts and I'm hoping to fill them all. So these are the basic bear prompts. So the first prompt is Sunburn, where you read a book with a red cover, and I can totally connect with this one because, as you can tell, quite peely-wally. I don't really tan, but I do got a nice shade of tomato. I get sunburnt on a cloudy day. It has happened many times. I don't learn. And so for this prompt, I'm going to try and clear a NetGalley that has been on my list for since last year. It's really, it's been on there for a long time. I have actually read most of the books, so this will just be a way to push myself to finish it. And it's I'm Absolutely Fine, A Manual for Imperfect Women by Annabel Rivkin. And I requested this on NetGalley because I was listening to the podcast I'm Absolutely Fine, which is hosted by Annabel, and I don't know who the other presenter is. I'll write it on the screen because I haven't listened to it for a while, because what really drew me to it is it's, you know, women of a certain age, of which I am fast approaching, just discussing what it is like to be a woman in your 40s. And I think that's something that generation and my generation are really, we're embracing it, we're being honest about it, and it's not something, maybe because I was too young, but it's not something that I'd really been aware of those sorts of discussions before. And I find it really helpful to not, you know, be so worried about time passing, about getting older, about not have done X, Y, and Z or whatever, by hearing the voices of other women. So I started listening to their podcast, and I did get a lot from it. I kind of stopped listening as often because I felt the podcast itself, there was a lot of talk about beauty and products, and it was tainted with a lot of privilege. You know, they were not talking about Boots No. 7 products. These were all things that, you know, that I would never, well, even if I had the money, I probably wouldn't buy them. And I just felt a little bit disconnected from that. But I think this book is a little bit more broad than just beauty, and it covers a lot more topics that are back to that kind of discussion that drew me to the podcast in the first place. So from what I've read so far, it's a bit fluffy, but I'm looking forward to revisiting it because I haven't picked it up in a while, and just delving into some of those essays and snippets and things that it's made up of. And obviously it has it's kind of a pinky cover, but for me this cover looks like Sunburn, like the texture and everything in it is just, that is Sunburn to me. The next prompt is Some Like It Hot, and that is to read a book from somewhere that's very hot or somewhere that's very cold, and I've gone with John Boyne's A Traveller at the Gates of Wisdom, because, okay, this might not scream summer book to you, but it starts off in Palestine and then moves on to Turkey, both in like the first millennium, and I know Turkey's hot. I'm not quite sure about Palestine, but I'm assuming that it's probably hotter than Scotland, so for me that's uncomfortable hot, and so that's why I have picked it. But I think it also ends in space, which to me is cold, so I think I'm getting both of those temperature angles. The story itself begins with a family with two sons, one who has his father's violence and the other one who has his mother's artistry, and it follows, I think, their lineage through 2,000 years. So if you thought The Heart's Invisible Furies was an epic, John Boyne's just been like, hold my drink. And I read The Heart's Invisible Furies in May, I think it was, and I absolutely loved that. So I'm really excited to get to this. This is his newest book. I think it was released this month, and I've got high hopes for it. Even though it does kind of take me out of my comfort zone, that whole space bit, I'm just trying to ignore that and pretend that isn't existing until I get there. And it's like deep historic as well, which also is not my thing. I'm like in the middle, okay? So as long as there's a good bit in the middle, hopefully I will feel comfortable. Next is to read a book with a summary cover, and any Scottish people out there will totally understand why I'm going to use Nobody Is Too Small to Make a Difference for this one. For anyone who doesn't live in Scotland, well, the raincoat is yellow. That's a summer colour, but really in Scotland we don't really have summer. We have an amazing spring, like April, May and June are usually really lovely. As soon as the schools break up at the end of June, it rains and it doesn't stop. And so for me, summer always involves the raincoat. And the fourth of these basic prompts is set somewhere you would want to go, and for this I will be using convenience store women because I have always wanted to go to Japan. And then for the extra bear prompts, the first one is Shoulda Woulda Coulda, which is a book that you meant to read in the first half of 2020. And for this one I'm really hoping to have the time to get to How to Fall Apart, Things I've Learned About Losing and Finding Love by Leanne Hines. She's a columnist who writes about life after her marriage broke down and being a single mom. Hi! And in this book she examines all of that, so I'm hoping to find some solace in this. The next prompt is to read a book with some summer wildlife on the cover, or summer animal on the cover, and so I am going to go with one of my new releases, which is The Butterfly Lampshade by Amy Bender. I meant to get to this last month, and I really actually struggled to describe the book when I was putting it on my TBR. I think I just read from the blurb, so this time I'm going to try and attempt to explain what this book appears to be about. So this is the story of Francie, who is struggling with memories that she has always believed to be real, where images become tangible objects. So for example, when she was a young child, her mother was taken into hospital after a psychotic episode, and as she's sleeping on the babysitter's couch, there's a lamp beside her and the shade is covered in pictures of butterflies, and when she wakes up in the morning there is a dead butterfly floating in her glass of water, which looks exactly like the butterflies on the lampshade. And there are a few situations in her life where this sort of thing has happened, and as an adult these memories are making her really question her connection to reality and what that says about herself. I think this sounds fascinating. It's got obviously a heavy mental health slant, and I also get the feeling it's going to be quite a beautiful book, so I am really looking forward to get to that one. The third extra prompt is to read for 24 hours, or I think it says 24 or 48 hours over the course of the HiBearNation Readathon, and obviously with Deweys and me kind of maybe gonna read for 24 hours for that, I'm pretty sure that I will smash this prompt. And then the final extra one is to take a picture and share it on social media of you reading in your favourite summer spot, which I might struggle with because the weather has been crap for weeks, and I don't really know if I've got a favourite summer spot either, but we'll see how that pans out. It might just be a picture of me on my sofa. So those are the books and the challenges and the prompts and the readathons that I am hoping to complete in August. What are you going to be reading? Have you read any of the books that I've mentioned? Do you have any thoughts? Let me know. Thank you for joining me today, and if you are new to my channel I would absolutely love it if you subscribed. Drop me a comment, let's chat books, and I'm going to sign off now because I have a killer toothache. I was meant to have an emergency dental appointment today and I've been bumped because someone else's emergency is bigger than mine, but I've had toothache for weeks and I just want to go and take some painkillers and feel sorry for myself this afternoon. So until next time, bye. The Butterfly Lampshade